Alright, guys, so we are doing owning your schedule. Full transparency, this was originally supposed to be co-taught between Tara and I. I'll apologize for the fact that you're just getting me. Tara is in Austin. But we're gonna do our best to make this super helpful. So here's what we're gonna do first. We're gonna go on my screen, which is my calendar. That I didn't die by. And if you have a piece of paper, I'll just get a piece of paper out. I'm gonna let you use the of this. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to start making a list of everything that you do in a day. Now, if you are an agent, the top of that list better be lead generation. But I want you to make a list of the things that you do every day. Derek is getting a double whammy of Lexi today because he is back on this class. So excited to have him. So excited. Okay. So I'm just gonna let you guys. I can't sit here and not. Let me get my phone, then I will sit here and not talk. List of everything that you guys do in a day.
Next. There you go.
And now off to the side, below it, label it something different. I want you to make a list of the things that you do, like maybe once a week, like a couple times a week, things that aren't on your every single day I'm doing, but still need to get done and I need to be held accountable for. So anything that happens every Monday, I'm going to check the market and I'm gonna send out market updates, right? So anything that you do once a week, every Friday, I close my week by sending 5 text messages to people in my database, wishing them a happy weekend. I don't know, just something that you are doing once occasionally, and then under that, anything that you do monthly, we'll do once a month. If you have anything that as we're talking about weekly, monthly stuff that feels super important that you do on a quarterly or a yearly basis, you can go ahead and write those down too. So Scott, what we've done is we wrote down absolutely everything we do every day that we should be doing, that we do, anything that is on our absolute must do every single day. Actually, okay, so everybody should be. I just had somebody pop in, so I'm giving instructions to them again. Everybody should be writing down, making notes, however you can. iPhone person, if you're driving, please don't do this. Everything that you guys do in a day, and then everything that we do, once a week, once a month, any of that kind of stuff. Okay. And ignore the screen. I will let you know what we're doing here. Okay. Now, I'm gonna leave this as an example. I'm going to share this with the couple people that we have in here, and then I'll put a link for this in, the chat. So I now want you, probably should have started off this way, but I just shared a Google sheet with everybody to their emails. This is super helpful because this just helps with like the visualizing of all the things. iPhone person, if you are not driving, here's the link in the chat. If you're driving, please ignore this. Text me when we're done and I'll email this to you. Okay, just wanted to make sure that. Now I want you guys to, first of all, make a copy of this, because this is what everybody has, so. I don't want somebody to start editing it, and then there's somebody else start editing it and all that kind of stuff. So if you don't wanna do that, you're just gonna go to the top, click file, make a copy, and then you can rename it if you want, you can do kind of whatever you want with it. And then I want you to start filling this in, so you can see, like off to the right, I've kind of got, I left it in here because I wanted you guys to see kind of what this looked like. So all of the things I do, and you're gonna make a list of like, put them all into general categories, so if we're talking. You know, following up on text messages that have come in. Cold calling, anything like 6 of these things, they all fall under lead generation. You're gonna put lead generation right here, and then kind of like all of the things that fall under that you do, okay? So now you're gonna make a list on here. Probably, sorry, should have started it this way instead of on paper, but that's okay, we got it all out on paper. Now we can kind of condense it a little bit. All of the things that you do, and then kind of break it down into your other stuff, okay? Once we have all of that, you are going to break it down into your daily 5. The 5 things that you have to do every single day, or else. Okay? Now, while you guys are doing this, here's something that's super important about time blocking. We've talked about the 80-20 principle before. 6 personal perspectives, all that kind of stuff. I know we talked about it in our MRA class. Last week. Let's see, here, I'll play this video again. There's those.
Is this jar full?
Whoa, sorry. Oh my gosh. Hot mess, okay.
Is this jar full? And is it full now? And how about now? Is the jar full now? Yes. Yeah, it is. Now, I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. Golf balls are the important things, your family, your friends, your health, and your passions. The pebbles are the other important things, your car, job, your home. The sand is everything else, it's just the small stuff. Now, if you put the sand in the jar first, you won't have room for the pebbles or the golf balls. The same is true in life. If you spend all your energy and your time on the small stuff, you won't have time for all the really important things that matter to you. Pay attention to the things that are critical to your happiness. Take care of the golf balls first, the really important things. Set your priorities, because everything else is, it's just sand.
This is kind of reminiscent of the big rock story, but instead of rocks, he's talking golf balls, right? So this is the theory that 80% of your results come from 20% of your activities. Okay, so leads back to the Pareto principle. He was doing research in Italy, found out that 80% of the country's wealth belong to 20% of the country's population, right? And then you start looking at other things and it just felt like everything was falling. 80% of your results come from 20% of your activities. So that is why we talk about what is your top 20% and doing your top 20%. So what we are talking about when we are talking about time blocking your schedule, we are only talking about time blocking your top 20%. Your top 20% should be what falls into this daily 5. So if you built your daily 5 and you're looking at that daily 5 list and you're like, these are not the most important parts of my day, and this is not the thing that's going to move the needle or that's going to accomplish the most or that's going to get the most results, then our daily 5 is wrong. And we need to readdress that and we need to figure that out, right? So there's a thought process behind time blocking that means every minute of your day is time blocked. That is not correct. You should only be time blocking your top 20%. Okay? So 20% of your day is time blocked, the rest is not. But what is important is that we are protecting the time block. So we make sure that we keep our 20% where it needs to go, and we are not letting the little things, the sand and the pebbles and the water, or in this case alcohol, penetrate the time blockings that we've created. Okay, so now what you're gonna do on this lovely sheet here is we are gonna take our daily 5 and we are gonna schedule them into our calendar. Now, this calendar is an 8 to 5 calendar. So if you are only time blocking for 4 hours out of the day, 6 hours, you're doing 8, but you work kind of whatever, do that instead, right? So you are going to put on the important things on here first. Now, also keep in mind those things that are weekly. So every Monday, you do this. On Monday, I want you to right now block that out for the time that you are going to do that. Okay? If there's something that you have bi-weekly, what I've done in the past for bi-weekly, like I've had things where from 3 to 4, I do every other week, like this was one that I had in the past. I would do like a one-on-one with Tara. And then on those other weeks, I would spend this time doing, I don't know, let's just say social media prep. I don't remember what I have on here. Okay, so that is how I would do something that's like a bi-weekly, is I would schedule, I would put what the bi-weekly thing is and then schedule something else for the off week so that we protect that time block, right? So that if we are working with somebody, if we're working with, in Katie's case, an agent, if we have a top 20% block that needs to happen once every other week, we can make sure that we have her agent in the habit of every Wednesday from noon to 1, Katie is working on stuff, right? Even if it's not that top 20%, because it's an off week, it doesn't matter, she has in her brain, no messing with Katie between noon to 1, right? So we're just making sure that we're protecting that super important block every week, even if it's a bi-weekly block, okay? It's harder, this is about training the people around you to respect your time block, right? If you have a time block to lead generate, we are lead generating. We are not answering a fellow agent who has a question. We are not, helping the kids find the water gun out in the garage, just really, really important that we are protecting our time and we are giving the people in our world who have power within our world to allow you to protect your time. Okay, so you're gonna start putting your daily 5, your weeklies, any of that kind of stuff on here. Okay, so what this can look like is, now this is not what you are supposed to do, please keep that in mind. This is, okay, well technically this is still 20% of my day because of how I have this scheduled, but this is what this can look like, okay? So I merged this so that you could do hour blocks, half hour blocks, however you wanted to do it, right? But this is what it could potentially look like.
Hey, to ask what they are.
But we are, that's the Ohio Valley redid.
No, A/500 under daily 5.
Oh,
Call.
this is, yeah, I didn't mess with this part, this is, MCA stuff. So AR stands for account receivable. Yeah. Okay, so this is like. What it could look like, right? We've got lead generation on here, we've got every week, we have a half-hour meeting here. We've blocked these off, because these happen every Monday, this happens every Monday. You know, this happens every Thursday, so we've got the things in here that happen every week, right? Now, again, this is like an outdated one for me, but this is what this could look like. Okay? And you can see here, I had one-on-one with Tara, and then on the weeks that I didn't have one-on-one with her, I did social. Okay. So I want you guys to get like a general sketch and outline of what your time log looks like. And don't be afraid to leave spots empty. Okay?
Was trying to change the text one.
So here's another good example, kind of like in your time block. These are the activities that are gonna move the needle, these are things that absolutely have to get done every day, or. Pulling these things out and making sure that we are doing all of the things, so this is like. Just for reference, this is an example time block for the G5 stuff that we've been doing, so somebody like in my position would have ideally a time block that looks like this, right? Just a little bit more. So then what we're gonna do is we are gonna add this to our calendar. Okay? Now, we might have stuff on our list, like me, for example, part of my top 20% are. Recruiting appointments for people who are in school, right? That's part of my position. I help people get their licenses, right? So I have a standard for my job to hold 5 appointments a week. So this is an example of like why my calendar looks like it's 100% full, but it's not. Is I have on here, so we move forward to next week. Which is still fairly clear. You'll see that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 slots for appointments, my standard is 5. So I have time blocked 7 spots of my week to be available for recruiting appointments, knowing that I will not most likely fill up all of those slots. So I can then use any that I don't fill up for other activities that I need to do. So this is kind of like a little bit looser of a time block, but what I'll tell you is if I don't have 5 appointments covered or filled in for the week, I am using those time slots to get appointments set to fill in the other ones, right? Because here's the solution for this, let's say I only have 5, let's say 2 of these are not appointment things, they are things. And I'm getting to Monday at 2 o'clock and I don't have this appointment filled. What do I do with that? Do I just like spend the time doing something else and call it a day? Like, right, like, cause I just talked about if I don't have that spot filled, cause we're back in the conversation, I only have 5, I don't have 7, I have 5. And I don't have that one filled with an appointment. I'm gonna spend that time making appointments so that I'm filling my stuff, right? But what happens to this hour block on Monday that I've got that I didn't fill with an appointment? If my standard's 5 and I only have 5 spots? Am I just being like, cool, I'm gonna use it as a working hour to fill the other appointments and moving on? No. If I have something that is a non-negotiable, and for whatever reason it doesn't happen, because life happens, right? You may have an hour time blocked to do lead generation this afternoon, and it's summertime, so all the kids are home, and somebody is now headed to the ER for whatever reason. They tripped on something, they need to, right, like things happen, right? Life happens. You, I promise, are not going to sit there and let a child bleed out on the sidewalk because you have an hour time block. Right? Life happens. So in that scenario where life has happened and we, for whatever reason, are not able to hold our time block, we don't just forget it and move on, we move it. Okay? So if I don't hold an appointment on Monday at 2 p.m., I have to move it somewhere else where I'm going to hold it. So in this instance, what I like about these the Google calendars is I can be like, okay, I didn't hold that appointment, so that means I need to move it. And so knowing my time block, I can say, okay, I have time Wednesday morning at 10 to hold this appointment. So I'm gonna move it forward to Wednesday and I better hold it. Okay?
How do you do that? But I just try to
You
get,
just click and drag.
that's what I thought, so you do, but you do,
You make and drag.
it highlights it and moves it. It does move. Don't they just save it or something, or share it with you, or what?
Are you on your Google Calendar?
Yeah.
No, but you're on your Google Sheet, I'm on the Google Calendar.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm in Google Calendar now. I'm off the sheets.
You did say to do that.
Open a new tab,
Say again?
open a new tab. And click the stack next to your profile. Yep. And click find your calendar. So we're gonna take that Google Sheet that we made and we are going to time block our calendar, okay? So this is theoretically super easy, right? If I have a time block to do something on Wednesday at 10, I'm gonna just click Wednesday at 10. I'm gonna give it a name. So what am I doing Wednesdays at 10 a.m.? If this is something that's every Wednesday, I'm gonna click on this and I'm gonna hit the do not or does not repeat and turn it to weekly on Wednesday. That way I'm not having to redo this every single week, okay? If this is something like a one-on-one, a coaching session, a group lead gen session that I'm doing with multiple people, add the guest. If you're gonna use Google Meet for virtual or whatever, you can do that. If there's anything you need to prepare or anything that you're gonna use for it, you can add it into the description. And then if you wanna get really fancy with it, click on this. I can change the color of it, so you'll notice I have different colors on my calendar, it's not all one color. You can change the colors and label them to mean something, okay? So super simple, if you don't already have some of these, you just hit this little plus button and it'll pop this up. And then you can add, right now I only have one color left, there's only certain colors you can use. But you'll click the color and then you'll add label that you wanna make it. Okay, so like this is what I've got, anything that's green is gonna be a scheduled block hold. Meaning it's something that doesn't have a person on it or whatever. I've got different colors for different things, right? So I can give this a color of what I want it to be, and then I will hit save. and it's gonna pop onto my calendar. And whatever that looks like, so if we're looking at this retention appointment. It is weekly on Thursdays, 10 to 11, and it's a scheduled block hold. Okay. So let's say I need, per my economic model, in order for me to hit my goals this next year, I need to hold one listing appointment every single week. Then we need a block on our calendar once a week to do a listing appointment. If we don't hold a listing appointment this week, we move it to next week. And next week we hold 2. If we don't hold 2, we move anything we do forward. Okay? Because these are immovable items for us. Okay? They have to happen. And so what I like to do is, for me, if I were doing this where I have a listing appointment, which for me, listing appointment would be an equivalent of one of these real estate, one of these recruiting appointments. So every time I pop somebody into one of these schedule blocks, I just hit edit events, I put their name in here, I add their email in, and then this is a description of anything. So if we're talking listing appointments, this is gonna be any pre-listing stuff that they wanna read, like a blank buyer rep agreement, maybe an agency consent, the fair housing, like anything that they need to know or look or see or whatever before the listing thing would go in this description. Okay, and then what I do, once I have filled this, I change this color to red. Okay, so my label for red is R0 appointment. And so when you look at my calendar at a quick glance, you can see how many appointments I have set for this one, sir. Yes, this week is wrong.
I have a question. Can I interrupt?
Sure.
I guess I already interrupted, didn't I?
You too though, so.
What, that's fair. People ask if they can interrupt when they're already interrupted. Agent needs to release their license to go into the referral company.
Mhm.
She's in Louisville, but she's gonna be releasing it. I'm gonna pick it up into our referral company. Can she do that online?
Yeah, she has to do it through her e-services portal.
Yeah, I can't find the place, we can't find the place on the e-services portal to do that.
It should say like release affiliation. Or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Can't find it. All right,
The other option is to just get form 200 filled out.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, okay. All right, well, let me see.
Okay. Okay. So at a quick glance, because of my calendar, because of my color coding, I know that I only set 2 appointments this week, which means per my standard, I have 3 more appointments that I need to set this week, right? So for me, because I have more time blocks on here than I have like required thing, you'll notice like this one is still over here, and it's still green, it's because I have enough still in this week that I don't need to pull any forward, right? But if we're only putting the minimum amount on our schedule, it needs to move forward, okay? So that's why I like these Google calendars, because we can drag and drop things, we can do different colors, we can do all of those type of things. Okay, so I've got, you know, a morning huddle on here that repeats every single week. We've got our agenda for what we're gonna talk about in that morning huddle. Some of these are just purple, which are just like generic things. So for me, I have a time block to hold a 30-day tracker appointment on here. But I also have on Sunday, I have some stats, and that is because these are things that I would consider part of my top 20%, but they don't happen on a consistent and a regular basis. They happen kind of as they need to happen. So I have them on a Sunday because they're not in an active time blocking spot, but I have these appointments set. This is more for like, kind of like systems type stuff. When I have an agent who needs to go over their 30-day tracker, I have all of the information that they need to know. And I do the same thing, like if I need to have a meeting with somebody, I drag and drop it, and then I'll edit it. Put their information, add them to it and that stuff. So this is really nice if you have that kind of stuff where it's not normal, but it's something that's gonna happen. There's certain information that needs to be shown with that I don't wanna have to go back in time and find an old event and duplicate it or like any of that kind of stuff. I just ignore my notifications on Sunday, right? So this is, like I said, this is my calendar, so this is this week for me. I've got different color codes on here, so for me, these blue ones are like non-negotiable schedule block holds. I will spend an hour on Thursday, 3 to 4, doing 30-day tracker review. If I cannot keep that on Thursday, I will move that to the next day, right? Same with my appointments, I'm gonna move those if I don't have enough for whatever reason. Like if I get here to Friday and I don't have these 3 booked, I'm gonna move those to next week, and next week I will hold 8 appointments. Right? That's kind of, and then I've got like. Things that are specific that I need to just like. Know about, so orientation is something that I do weekly, so that's on here. And so on and so forth, so. Mine does look like it's way more than 20% filled. Yours should be blocked for 20% of your week. Okay. Is this hopeful? Are we answering questions? What questions do we have? Do we have any questions?
How do you, when you said move this to the calendar, how do I overcome the conflicts that I have on the calendar already? And we try to tell us, but how do you get it done every week? How do you move it in a week without having to duplicate?
You're just gonna repeat it, so if this is gonna happen. Every week, I want this schedule block hold in here every week. When I'm making this in here, I'm going to repeat it weekly on Thursday. And so if we have something that's already existing, like we're adding this to our calendar, and next week it looks like. I don't know, next week it looks like. I've got these 2 things overlapping, like sometimes you're gonna have things overlapping, like I have headshot and new orientation on my calendar overlapping. The headshots are just on my calendar so that I know when they are, they're not something that I actually participate in. It just is important that I know when I'm talking to new agents, when the next headshot day is, right? So that's not actually a conflict for me. But let's say this week, I've got this G5 growth session smack dab in the middle of these 2 appointments. Now, this is a unique thing. I got added because of next week's G5, I'm like a special guest on next week's G5, but then the rest of them don't matter to me. So when I get to this week and I'm checking my calendar, I'm just gonna delete this one because it's not something that I need to attend anymore. But like, here's another thing, I'm teaching a class 11 to 12 on Thursday when I have an agent appointment thing blocked, right? So I have more agent appointments on my calendar than is my standard. So for me, I'm just gonna delete that, so that I make sure I go to save searches, right? If this is something where, oh my gosh, I've been planning. On my little calendar thing, Wednesdays at 11 is my lead gen session, but I really wanna go to Lexi's MREA class, then that's fine, while. During that week or during that session or series or whatever, you're just gonna move this to an open slot that you have somewhere else. And then when I drop it and it asks this question, I'm gonna say just this event. Just this one time of this reoccurring thing, I wanna move to Wednesday because I have a time conflict, right? But then, and so when I do that, it's gonna move that agent appointment over here, but then next week, my agent appointment is still where it's supposed to be. Okay. I try and keep mine as like unblocked as I can. Like undouble booked as I can, like some things are just gonna like naturally happen because. Like I've got a tech hour thing that I have created for my own schedules, for my own time block. And then I have a time block that has Louisville and Southern Indiana on it so that they don't have, right? Like those things drives me crazy having 2 things stacked on top of each other, but just by like the nature of the beast, that's how that works, so I have to leave those. But then like I have a business appointment on the 30th, I'm gonna just delete the retention. Right, because again, I have more schedule blocks on my schedule for retention appointments than I actually need to hold. So I will just delete that one, I don't need to replace it. If it was something that I only have 2 hours a week I have dedicated to doing this thing and I've only time blocked 2 hours this week to do it. And now I have an appointment, I would move it. Right, that's what's important, is if we have a bare minimum scheduled of times. And we have a conflict that comes in, we don't delete it, we move it. Right? I've got mine set up in a way that I have the ability to delete some. Right, but I would never go into my week and delete every single retention appointment block that I have. Cause those have to go somewhere, I have to hold a certain amount every week, right? Does that make sense? What questions do we have?
How do you move this over to the calendar? I've got it on.
Yeah, so, if you're just on one screen, I honestly would suggest printing. The Excel sheet, or the Google sheet, once you have it all filled out. And then just put it next to you, and yours is gonna be blank, right, you're not gonna have any appointments up, so yours is gonna look like. I don't know, probably closer to this, right, you're not gonna have anything. On your calendar, or maybe you've got one or two things, and then you're just gonna start taking your paper. And you're just gonna start duplicating it, right? So if I've got a time block on Monday, all I gotta do, so stop, I'm on my Google Calendar. And I've got something that needs to go here, I'm just gonna put my mouse on 10 o'clock and I'm just gonna play.
Right, redo it.
And then I'm gonna make your thing. Yes, this isn't your, I mean, it can be, I guess, if you're more of a paper person, sure, here's your calendar. Right? But no, I am making this, right? And it looks like you didn't copy, but I'm making this so that I have a visual. So that I can move stuff around, right, before I make it permanent.
For some reason I thought you were.
No. You're just gonna duplicate it. This is just so that you can get an idea of this, so that we can. You know, my brain's saying, yeah, this is a good time. Well, oh crap, now that I look at it, not all of my stuff Wednesday morning, I need to move this a little bit. Or like, oh my gosh, now that I've got it on here, I really need a break between these two things. I really can't do them back to back for whatever reason. It's too much staring at my screen, I'm gonna need to get up and go walk, okay, I'm gonna have to move this down, right? So this exercise was so that you could see it visually before we put it kind of quote unquote in stone, right?
How do you ever bring mine up? Something like that too.
Because you didn't make a copy. You just edited it, fine, so hit file. Make a copy,
Also,
yeah, call it something else. Call it Scott's birthday,
I need one. That's back then.
and then make a copy, and then I'm gonna come in and delete everything off of this.
They-
I'm gonna delete this one, so you're gonna use Scott's perfect day, perfect day. And here, I'll make it even easier for you. I'm gonna remove your access from this one. That way, when you search perfect day, it's this plain was not gonna come up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to save it, so I bring it back up. You're at Google. You're at Google Sheets class, but I guess you're gonna say YouTube.
No,
Download, download,
no, you made a copy already.
I don't know what I want to save.
Oh, okay, so when you are ready to bring it up. You're gonna come, open a new thing. You're gonna hit your little dots over here. And you are gonna go to Drive. And then in your Drive, you can, if it's not popping up right away, I would just search for Scott's perfect day.
Thank you.
Questions? Questions, by people, questions? Derek, do you have any questions? Okay, I don't think Derek has a question. Work on this, put it all together. If you're watching this recording or you're watching this on YouTube, please send me a text or an email and I will share this document with you, or you can, again, this document was just for visualization, so if you wanted to skip this altogether, just start making it on Google. And move stuff around, then do that. If you were making this on Google and you're like. All of a sudden, oh my gosh, I made this and. This is actually not where I want this, I actually want this at 2 o'clock. And so you drop it at 2 o'clock. It's gonna pop up this little question, and so if we're making this and we're like, oh crap, okay, no, I actually want this to repeat every Sunday. Don't say this event, you're gonna do this and following events. And then it'll move it every week forward, right? You're only gonna do this event if you want something that's. A series of repeating things, we want it to move just as one time. That's when you would hit this event. Okay. So, for any of you that are building that. Alright, there's somebody else on here, there's still iPhone 13, and I don't know who they are, so. Nobody's popped up in the chat though. So. Alright. Well, nobody else has any questions, give it a shot. Here's what I will tell you, time blocking is, oops, somebody unmuted.
Thank you, Lexi.
Thank you. So here's what I'll tell you about time blocks really quick. When I made my first perfect day and started time blocking my calendar, I didn't stick to it at all. It was like something popped up and it was like 30-day tracker, and I was like, well, I'm working on Canva. Let's keep working on Canva, right? But here's what I'll tell you, there's a reason we have them time blocked. It's because they have to happen, right? So unless this Canva thing is something that absolutely has to happen today and right this second and right now, it can wait. Put it on the back burner, do what you need to do. Maybe it doesn't even take you the full hour to do what you need to do. Then you can go back to Canva when you're done, right? When all of your stuff is done, you can go back to the things that you've been waiting for, right? So follow this, and what you'll find is if it doesn't pop on your calendar, it throws everything off, right? Like for me, now that I live on my calendar, if I have an agent that says like, Heather and I were talking about validating her KPI next week. Thankfully, she put it on my calendar, but if she hadn't put it on my calendar, 2 o'clock next Tuesday or whatever we have a plan to do it, she would have walked into my office and I would have been like, I don't know, I don't have him. And knowing me, I probably would have scheduled something else on top of it, right? And that's when you run into getting double booked or not showing up to places that you're supposed to be and that kind of stuff, is when you start actually living by your calendar. But what I'll promise you is if you start living by your calendar, you will always be where you need to be when you need to be. Right? So, don't be afraid to take this and be like, okay, my perfect week, I have this scheduled from 10 to 11. And okay, that's just not working. Whatever, for whatever reason, every single week I am not able to do this, then move it to somewhere else that you don't have something and see if that's a better day and a time. The important part is that we are not deleting things, that we are moving things. Okay, if we found them important enough to put on our calendar, it's important enough to do. Okay, if you guys need any help with any of this, if you guys want to talk me through, if you want me to see your calendar just to talk about it, or you know, you guys aren't sure if something needs to go on your calendar or not, I would love to help talk you guys through it. But what's important is that you find a way to make it something that you're gonna stick to, okay? So if you're finding yourself not doing stuff that's on your time block, or moving stuff every single week, then maybe we just need to find a new place for that to live. Okay? Alright, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for coming. Make sure that you guys are time blocking. It's super important part of, you know, being at a super high production level and all of that kind of stuff. I promise you, once you start putting focus on the things that are most important, everything else just becomes easier. Right? Alright, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for coming. We're ending 15 minutes early, so I'm gonna give you guys 15 minutes of your day back. So